Once upon a time, there was a little puppy named Max. He lived on a beautiful farm in a rural area. One day, he decided to go on an adventure and left the safety of his farm. He wandered through meadows and fields, crossed rivers and streams, until he finally arrived in a big and noisy city. The city was completely foreign to him and he felt lost and alone. The buildings were tall and dark, the streets were filled with cars and people. Max was afraid and didn't know how to find his way home. He decided to keep walking and hoped to eventually find a familiar environment. He walked through the streets and alleys, but nothing looked like home. Suddenly, it began to rain and Max got soaked. He sought shelter under a bridge, but it didn't help much. He was still wet and cold. He kept walking, always looking for a place where he could warm up and feel safe. He met some cats who lived in an alley. They looked at him curiously, but they were not very friendly to him. One of them said, "You don't belong here. You should better leave before the dog catcher catches you." Max was afraid and kept walking. He didn't know who the dog catcher was, but it didn't sound good. Night fell and the streets became darker. Cars hardly noticed him when he crossed the street. He was afraid of being hit by a car. He kept walking, always looking for a place where he could be safe. Suddenly, he saw a man with a net coming towards him. He knew it was the dog catcher. He ran as fast as he could, but the man was faster. He threw the net over Max and lifted him up. Max was caught and was afraid of what would happen next. But in the last second, a pigeon came to his rescue. She flew around the dog catcher and distracted him. Max took the opportunity and escaped from the net. He ran as fast as he could, still scared and soaked, but he was free. The pigeon who had come to his rescue followed him, and when Max stopped to catch his breath, she landed next to him. "Thank you," Max panted. "I'm really grateful that you saved me." The pigeon looked at him and nodded. "No problem," she said. "My name is Polly and I'm here to help you. I saw you wandering through the streets and I knew you needed help." Max was surprised. He had never met a talking pigeon before. "You can speak?" he asked incredulously. Polly nodded. "Yes, I can speak. I'm a special pigeon. I've lived in this city for a long time and I know it very well. I can help you find your way home." Max was relieved. "That would be wonderful," he said. "I grew up on a farm and I got lost. I'm scared and I don't know how to find my way back home." Polly nodded understandingly. "Don't worry," she said. "I'll help you. Just follow me." Max followed Polly through the streets of the city. She flew ahead of him and showed him where to walk. She led him through alleys and streets, over bridges and along rivers. Finally, they reached the city limits and Polly led him onto a path that led into the countryside. Max recognized the surroundings. He recognized the meadows and fields he had traversed on his adventure. He recognized the river he had walked along, and he recognized the farm where he had grown up. He ran towards the farm and finally reached the house. His family was overjoyed to see him again and hugged him. They asked him where he had been and what had happened, but Max couldn't explain it to them. He only knew that he was grateful to have found his way home and that it was Polly who had helped him. He turned around and saw that Polly was still with him. "Thank you, Polly," he said. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Polly smiled and said, "I'm glad I could help. I think we're friends now." Max nodded and smiled back. "Yes, I think so too," he said. friends forever. From that day on, Polly visited Max regularly on the farm and they had many adventures together. Max never feared getting lost again, because he knew that Polly would always be there to help him and guide him back home.